Okay, so hopefully there's not too many shadows. I already see some shadows, so let me see if I can fix that. Whoa. We don't want to have a problem. Okay, hopefully I have enough power in my camera to do the first part of this tutorial. I've got a lot of brushes here because I'm not really sure what all brushes that I'm going to be using. I probably do not need a Sharpie for this. Got a little bit of paper towel so that I can wipe off my brushes. Let's see. All right, so I'm working a limited color palette, and the way that I'm going to start this here is, and I hope you can see well enough. I'm going to be working a limited color palette, but one of the ways that I like to start my palette is with, to start it, I'm going to use markers to begin with, and then I'm going to use my limited color palette paints here. Okay, see how they kind of go together, because I actually I matched all of these up on this limited color palette here. So this is going to be a pretty interesting technique that I think you're really going to like. And this will be part one, because what I'm about to do here, and I know you can see shadows there. Let me see if I can get my lighting better. Hold on, I gotta adjust. Let me adjust one of the spotlights so you can see it better. I have a bulb that's wanting to go out. So let me just take it out and then put it in the right socket so you can see better. Okay, all right. And turn off the fan. Okay, so we should be good to go. All right, so the colors that I'm using for this particular limited color palette, they are cerulean, ocean's green, olive green, yellow deep, naphthol crimson, and pink. Now, the colors that I have here on the table, they are coordinating colors, and I did kind of like a color match at the beginning of the spring symposium. I did that, and I pulled out, these are my Pentel color pens, and I did not have a match, like a strong match for the cerulean, so it's a little bit lighter, but that's okay. The color here that we're using is 136, I do believe. Yes, 136. And it's, I don't even have a clue what they call it. But the olive green, I did not have a true olive green. So, but what I did have was this one here, which is 111. And then for the yellow orange, I actually ended up using this one here, which is 113. And I don't know why I have the yellow, because I don't know why I have the yellow, but the yellow goes away because the yellow is not part of this palette. And then the red is 102. And then the pinks are kind of a play as these three pinks together, because I could not match these pinks there. Okay, so I hope you can see better. All right, so what we're going to do, let me pull up the design really quick that we're going to be using so that I can cheat a little bit. Because what I have done was something kind of sneaky. I actually took a photo. Actually, I didn't take the photo. I used a photo from Canva, and I tricked it out with a painterly effect that looks so very similar to my to my own art. And so I really cheated this one here, guys. So I'm not lying to you, but I am going to tell you that um what we're going to do is we're going to do an allium, and there's going to be a butterfly across the page. But before we do all of that, we have to start with the background. So this is part one. Background's going to be kind of interesting, the way that I start a background. I actually draw out, it's it's a method that I do. I draw out the design that I'm going to create, and then I use alcohol, which just regular old isopropyl alcohol, and I use these markers, and I use a little bit of water, and I just trick out the design. So I'm going to start with the butterfly, which is going to go right across the page right here, and it has kind of like this shape to it, and it has like its abdomen is more kind of like this, and then we can kind of do this to kind of just imply that it's there, and then it has these little wings that kind of come out. There's some red here, there's some red here. We can go ahead and draw in the red if you want. I'm using green because the background that is in my photo is lots of green, because it was a garden picture. So I'm using the green because it's actually going to kind of marry into the field. This is the field here. This is the color field, or the background. I often call that the field. Don't hurt me, because that is when I used to design rugs as an interior designer. That's how we designed the rugs. We had a field, and so sometimes when I still speak, I speak in those terms. So we're just going to imply there's some eyeballs here. But the difference between butterflies and moths are really quite simple. In appearance, okay, in appearance, like in like anatomy and all that, you know, specimen stuff. I don't know that I'm not an insect or bugologist, but I can tell you that if you are looking for try to tell the difference between a butterfly and a moth has feathery antenna, and a butterfly has like these kind of antenna, like these stripedy antennae. So this kind of curls around. There's some more lines in here. This is some black. We'll come back in, and then there's some lines in here that go out. And there's some really kind of fabulous effects that are happening down here with some browns and some all different kinds of colors. So let me grab my brown that I'm using for my neutral. Instead of using black, I'm using brown. I'm using this almond, deepest almond from Colors of the World. Crayola. So I can go ahead and use this in place of my black. So I'm going to kind of very strongly go ahead and make some marks across the page. These are actually going to blow out with all of what's happening through here. So I'm probably going to go back over this with my pencil so that I do not lose the effect. Okay, evidently I forgot to change my water because I got a gnat in here. Forgot to throw out my water. It's like the places that gnats love are artist studios and plant lover. So I get gnats all the time because I'm both. I am both. So we're just going to kind of give this a little wiggle, give this a little wiggle, give it a little wiggle, give it a little wiggle. Now, we are going to see some pretty cool effects in this particular painting whenever it is done, because this is a special treat for you for Spring Symposium. This is a mixed media application that I will be doing, but you can try this method if you want. It's a little crazy, but it's my way. This is the way I paint my big paintings. And I don't always use watercolor markers in my big paintings, but I do often draw out the areas with like a Stabilo pencil, and those are water soluble. So that's kind of fun. So we have the butterfly drawn in here, and then I'm going to make you really, really mad in a minute because all of this stuff is going to blow out and you're not going to see it anymore. So let me go ahead real quick. While I'm thinking about it, let me take my little number 2 pencil, and I'm just going to kind of do it, just a little tracey bit. So I know where those lines are. Also, the graphite sometimes helps to stabilize whatever's in there. Now I'll tell you what I've learned by using the alcohol method is if you are not using the right kind of paper, if you spray all of this watercolor stuff, this watercolor is water soluble markers, if you spray it with the alcohol, it's almost like it sets the this into watercolor paper. This is not watercolor paper. This paper here is let's see if I have it. It is Cansen's oil and acrylic. It's Cansen's oil and acrylic paper, and I usually keep this in stock. I need to order some more. It's 11 by 14 is the size that I use, because 11 by 14s, it's a nice size. It's comfortable for showing on camera, and it's not so small that I'm gonna be intimidated by it. I'm very intimidated by working small. That's actually one of my biggest challenges. You'll probably find that out pretty soon, but I just like to go a little nuts with making marks, and I don't take a whole lot of time to do my art whenever I'm just kind of stenciling in or kind of putting in some different effects. So I'm going to take my pencil, and right through here I'm going to do some little radiation marks. This is going to be the allium. It's like the allium is very similar to, and I don't know for sure if allium is an angiosperm, but angiosperms are like the kinds of flowers that have like these little umbrellas that like they blow in the wind. Dandelion is definitely an angiosperm. I don't know for sure that allium is an angiosperm, but they still have like these little umbrellas that happen, and they have like these little flowers at the end. So my flowers are not going to be detailed because I'm doing a mixed media effect that's going to be very, very contemporary, but you can kind of see that there's going to be a little action kind of going on here. And I'm using my graphite pencil. This is part of mixed media for me. I use a lot of different tools all at the same time. So graphite would be my pencil. The paper, I use paper collage a lot of times, kind of sandwiched into my paintings. I can see that like in here, these kind of areas, so it would be a lot of fun to kind of place some paper. But before we do all of that, I am going to really kind of bust out with some fun little effects. So I'm just going to leave this through here. And it could come down. This is the allium. The globe of an allium is very, very symmetrical. Sometimes it either kind of goes like this, or it goes all the way around and creates like a globe. So there you go. Those little flowers kind of in and out there, and maybe they will kind of turn if they were kind of going like that. Okay, so this is a really great flower because it's in season. Usually you start seeing it come up in the spring. You probably have heard of wild onion, you've heard of ramps. Ramps are only available in the springtime, usually right around Easter time, depending on where you're at. Chefs love ramps. They go gaga for ramps, and they're quite yummy. I love wild onion, sometimes like in a butter, like if you're making like a herbed butter. We have lots of onion sets out there that still grow wild out in my backyard. I think someone probably had like an onion farm because there's so many. But we have, whenever we mow the grass, it always smells like onion soup out there. So I'm just going around these flowers right quick, just so I have a little bit more of that blue kind of concentrated around the bud of the flower. Now, alliums come in a variety of different colors, not a wide variety of colors do you see allium, but purple, like a really pretty purple, kind of like the color of my nails, you would find allium. Kind of like a softer purple, like a lavender, you might find that. Also, you can find them kind of like an indigo color, where it's a little bit kind of bluish purple. And then it also comes in, they come in pinks, and they come in greens and whites. That's pretty much the colors that you will see alliums. When I used to sell florals, our designers would come in and they would usually either want the white ones or the purple ones. We almost never carried the pink ones. So I've got like a little bit of that blue kind of concentrated around. I'm going to do a little bit more of the darker blue, which is the cerulean, on my color palette, just to kind of concentrate some of that blue still kind of around here. And I have to be really careful not to drag my hand or my arm across the paper, because I have a lot of, just like you, I have a lot of oils in my hands, and when I drag my hand across the paper, the oil will act kind of like a resist to the alcohol. So when I am doing the alcohol in a bit, I want it to really kind of run and just kind of go crazy. This is the part of intuitive painting that I love. When I am doing work and I'm not teaching and I'm just doing art for the sake of doing art, or for, creating a composition for display, or a composition for like sell, I don't talk. I don't hardly even listen to music sometimes, because I like for my art to kind of direct itself. I'm going to put a little blue. So I like to kind of have the balance of blue that's over here also over here. So I'm creating symmetry with the color. So it's color symmetry, and we might even have like, this might be the stem. Okay. All right, I'm going to start adding in just a little bit of the yellow, because the yellow and the blue is going to make like this lovely green. And we're just going to kind of do like these little scallops. You can call them rainbows, you can call them commas, you can call them earlobes, whatever you want, a little U's kind of all around. That's my method. And kind of a little in and out of the line to keep the line kind of directional. And all of this will come back with other types of medium to really fill that out. Now, this yellow, just a little bit in here, a little bit in here, a little wiggle in here, a little wiggle in there, just on the white part. And the reason why, again, is just to kind of have that balance of hue. You have this color balance over there, and then, you know, you also have it here. So you're just really kind of staying some consistent with your balance. Okay. So throughout the painting through here, we're going to have some strong greens. We're going to have some lighter greens. We're going to have a little bit of peachy tones because I love a little bit of peachy tones. So I'm just going to give it a little wiggle. These will kind of go away. But I'm just deciding to be kind of random with it. And then up in here with butterfly, wherever I put it over here, I'm going to put it over here. Don't get too hung up on it because all of this is going to get blown out. Okay, ready? Let's see what other colors we want to pull in. And see, so we have these blue tones, we have these peach tones, and these yellow tones. Both the blue tones and the yellow tones are going to kind of make like this really cool olive minty green. But I want to go ahead and put some concentrated green in here, like as if the leaf was happening. And it's going to be very, very blurry. If you look at the photo of me holding the fake picture, remember, this is a picture that I pulled off of Canva. So, I am only trying to imitate what I saw. So I'm going to kind of pull this in. And I think that you also, if you're looking for inspiration and you opt not to use like my licensed product, which is Folio by Design, I think that finding inspiration from nature and from photography, whether you take it or someone else takes it, and you kind of do your own interpretation of it, change it up a bit so that there's no copyright infringements, you know, because you took someone's intellectual property or something. That is a wonderful place to actually find inspiration. But many of my paintings, and if you are taking Folio by Design as a subscription, you'll be getting the full tutorial of how to paint the product, but you'll also be getting the layers and the color plates, or I mean the color palettes, and you'll get the design plates to be able to create your own. So you'll be able to kind of layer the steps through and use like the little cheat sheets to kind of add your little design elements to your paintings. Okay, so right now this looks like child art, right? This just totally looks like child's art. Well, hey, I don't mind. I don't mind what people think, because I know that when I am finished with this, it's going to have like a really lovely effect to it. Okay, so I've got the green in there. One of the things that I like to do is add like a little bit of bubble, kind of bubble action. So I'm just going to kind of add in some circles. think that this has a name when it kind of has that little highlighty, bubbly, sparkly look to it. I just like that so much. I really dig it. I don't know what it's really called, but I think it has a name. So I'm just putting some little circles in and out here. Now, one of the things that I will tell you is, hang on, just one moment. When I do my alcohol, a lot of times I like to have a drip. Let's see if I can find an actual, tools are getting hard to come by in this studio. Things are getting packed. Let's see. Looking, not trying to waste your time. Well, I like to have an eyedropper, and I think that my eyedroppers are actually put away in storage. Hang on just a minute. Yes. Okay. I like to use an eyedropper sometimes because with an eyedropper, you can create some really fun techniques. With an eyedropper, you can, and you can now get eyedroppers from you can get eyedroppers now from the from like Hobby Lobby to help you with your art. You can get that. You can also use like an atomizer bottle. Mine just has water in it, but I might want some water in just a minute. Okay. But you can use the atomizer. Use the droppers that they have at Hobby Lobby. They're not glass pipettes like this one. They're actually plastic, and sometimes they even have like a smaller dropper area. And a lot of people like to use those in mixed media art. And me, oh, I just drop a little bit. Just drop it like it's hot. Drop it like it's hot. I'm sorry. I never really listened to a lot of that music, but it's a Snoop Dogg song with Pharrell. Like, that's a long way from Martha Stewart and I'm happy. That song, it's kind of funny. Anyway, so you're just going to kind of blend in with the alcohol. And I typically use a scrubber brush for this. I like to have my medium just kind of really scrubbed into the paper. I may have used like the wrong side of paper. But I can still take my water bottle and I can create some fun effects too. Sometimes, like I said before, the alcohol ink will kind of permeate into the paper and you can get these really cool looks to them. Okay, so we're going to switch it up. I'm going to spray it with water, and then the water is actually going to bleed and just kind of run all over the place. We like that. Make sure your brush is clean and work with one area first. I'm going to choose to work with the green and just kind of work in that background. Now the alcohol will help to dry up some of it a little bit faster, but this is part one. And so all we're basically doing is the background, and you can just kind of mix in those colors. Like so. We're going for a green, so it's okay if the green and the blue mix up together. We're going for that. Let's see. Going for that green. You can come back with your alcohol right over your water. Let's get it nice and saturated. Let some of that blue kind of marry in with the yellow. So in the photo that I'm holding, the suggested piece of art, the background has like this olivine kind of color with like some minty blue spots that would be like the little blossoms. So I don't want to drag the color all over the place, but I do want some of this brown over here because that kind of works with the background. And this is just a form of mixed media. I know that a lot of people do different styles of mixed media. They sometimes call mixed media, I mean, just about anything goes nowadays. But my mixed media that I'm familiar with the most is doing mixed media collage. So I do a lot of collage paintings. Perhaps you were maybe with me doing maybe a collage angel recently. I really like to paint with paper, and I also like to paint on paper, and I like to paint paper to use in my paintings. I like to use my little jelly plate and make some fun paper to use in art. And I will be introducing a whole lot of that in Folio by Design and the mixed media parts of Folio by Design, because Folio by Design is definitely one part, design, of course, like you can use all the designs to your heart's content, whether you want to use them for your own pleasure or if you want to use them for your work. Maybe you teach step-by-step painting and you need some new painting designs. That will certainly help you out, because the painting designs, they are all going to be they'll all be scalable vectors where you can scale them up or down to make your life a little easier. And you can use those like on your tables and at your paint bars, wherever it is that you teach step-by-step painting. Or if you just, like I said, you like to do this kind of stuff for pleasure and like to take your time with it. Perhaps maybe you like to do like a little creative devotional. Maybe you might want to do like a little art journaling with the actual designs, which the designs are black and white, and then you can trace them out and use them for that. So I love like working with the layers of different mediums, because I do like the chemical reaction that I get with like the alcohol next to the water. I like the fun little reactions that I get with in different paper, depending on what kind of papers you're using. Sometimes the paper coloring it might have like a color that runs, and I like it like that. I think it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to kind of just pull the colors wherever you want them to go. And then you can kind of come back, look at that with the water, the water and the alcohol, how that just blooms together. Some people freak out. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's almost like tie-dye. A lot of times, you know, some of the popular techniques right now with the paint pouring and the alcohol types of art, they're just so much fun. You just want to hold your mouth open and just like in awe and just look at it for like hours and just hours. And I like how this over here is starting to pool because there's a ripple in my paper. Notice that I have my paper strapped down, okay, because I knew that this was going to get super, super saturated with the alcohol and the water. But what's going to happen is that when we come back to part 2, I'm not going to mess with this, okay? I know you probably don't believe me, but I'm not going to mess with this. I'm going to let it do its own thing. And what happens is the oxidation and the, you know, just the sheer drying time, it does its own thing. It has its own thing. And the paper and the painting, it just kind of does whatever it wants to do. And I like that. I have learned to really appreciate letting the painting kind of paint itself sometimes. So look at that. See, I hope you can see that. Like whenever I pick up the water and I put it onto the alcohol, it creates these cells that are just too cool. Just too cool. So if I pick up like a little bit of water on top of the alcohol over here, and the paper is saturated, it creates like these really cool, just really cool effects. And we would be really lucky if it dries kind of with those little ringlets, those little rings around it. Be very, very lucky. That's part of that blooming effect that I love so much. I just love it. I love it. And this is where I like to take my time and do some fun stuff. And I have a piece of white right here that really, really needs some water love. Let all that kind of run together and let it do its thing. And I can pull that brown into place. Cover up a little bit of that. Maybe I want to have some of this brown over here and here, just so that I'm not forgetting to pull the brown over to the other side so it's balanced. Okay, so right now this is the part where we let it dry, and we let it dry naturally. We don't use a heat tool or anything to do this part because it would run everywhere. This area over here needs a little bit of water love, so I'm going to just pull that in real quick. Let's add on top of the water, let's add a little alcohol to it. Let's add a little alcohol to here and here. And maybe here. We can change up our brush a little bit. Let's change up our brush to, and this is one of my favorite ones to use for alcohol. I saturate the bristles, and I just touch the wet background, and it makes these really cool cells. So it gives it that kind of bubbly look that I love. There we go. Now another technique that I like to use to kind of pull away some of the color is I like to use rock salt. in some of my art, but in this case, I think we're going to be doing just fine. With our water and our alcohol. Okay, so what you're seeing right here, you're seeing all of this kind of blow out. This color of the butterfly is blowing out into this area through here. Now, I really feel pretty cool about just maybe dropping a little bit more of this alcohol kind of in different places and letting it kind of dry on its own. Now I'll still be using alcohol with the color, but right now this is step one. Step one is done, and we have to be patient. This is the part where we have to be patient. So all of what we see here is very ethereal. We've kind of pulled all of the color together. It is this is in the step one. This is the underpainting of the mixed media project that I'm working on. So we gotta be patient here. Okay, the alcohol and the water together, they kind of are very like they have kind of like a they're alkalide, and so they tend to dry a little quicker on this paper. And we will come back for part 2 momentarily, and I'm going to let this dry. I'm going to have some patience, and I'm going to let it dry.